The Doomer Bloomer podcast is a community for the resurrection of good ideas. We profile the hero's journey in weekly episodes and teach people about the 10 pillars framework for success in life, business, and relationships. Our mission is to find and help all Doomer Bloomers with mental health issues, poverty mindset, lack of resources, and those left behind in this world. Tune in weekly with Will S. and occasionally John Wynn as we have deep conversations with guests about the hero's journey, clown world order, and the resurrection of good ideas. To help support our community, go to www.thedoomerbloomerpodcast.com/support to become a member today. And remember, we are the cure for COVID-19. And we're live. Welcome back to the Doomer Bloomer podcast. Today I have a special guest from the Two Perspectives podcast. Her name is Linda Tilson. How are you doing this evening, Linda?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm really happy and excited to be able to have a discussion with you this evening.
All right. Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's just get into the meat and potatoes. We've been discussing the idea of self-image and what that means for your life, and specifically what it would mean for a doomer bloomer. Like you because there's two sides of a doomer bloomer. There's the darker side of you, which is your shadow, your darker thoughts, your darker emotions, and then there's the bloomer side of you, the things you want to achieve, where you want to go, who you want to be. But ultimately, both sides of you are in there, and I wouldn't say it's a battle, but I would say that you need to be aware of how to shift and use both of those energies in a positive way. Because if you go too far to the dark side, or if you get, I find it like there's a lot of people who are almost too optimistic about things, and when they do have failures, they're not ready for it. What do you think about self-image, Linda?
I think that you're correct in saying that it needs to be a balance of both. You have those things that were what make you up, as far as like when you were growing up, so your experiences, your parents' philosophies, and the things that you would do, those all made up your self-image. And so you could have a really positive one where everything went through and everything was moving right along for you. Or you could be like most people, we have our ups and downs on self-image, and we tend to grow it as we age. And so we have those experiences, and we can choose to let them define who our future self is, or we can take the approach that we will learn from where we were at that point in time and make some adjustments or shifts into where we want to go. And so you're right. We don't want to be so far to the positive side that we fail to look at some of the other things going on in our lives.
Yeah, and I think I'm a pretty good example of a true doomer bloomer. Especially in my early 20s, I wouldn't have viewed myself very positively, like especially my late teenage years, early 20s. It's really taken me, and I'm still working on it. It's really taken to me to my early 30s to figure out who I am, uh, who I want to be, and the person I want to project into the world. Um, I mean, uh, I'm going to give you an example. Like my grad song was "Mad World" by Gary Jules, and it talks about like basically the chorus of the familiar faces, like worn out places, but you don't connect to any of them. That was me from basically the age of 13 up until about the age of 24, to be honest. I didn't feel that connected to most people or the world in general, and I just basically lived in my own world. so that whether that was healthy or not, it remains to be seen. But I was going through multiple cycles of depression at that time through those periods. Um, and my worldview was very much shaped by small town living and people around me not really doing very much with their lives, to be honest.
I
So
was just going to ask, what contributed to that, and that would make sense if you were in a smaller town and people weren't necessarily doing big grand things, and you were in that space, and there wouldn't be that same model for you to look to see what could be, because it'd be like, okay, we do these things, and this is all we have, versus people can do all these things, and look what you can have. And so I could see where there could be a disconnection, and depending on whether you were that person that felt like you could reach out or not, that would certainly play into that, because it sounded like you had that darker side that took a while to evolve into the more positive side, the blossoming side.
yeah, like I mean, what really changed my life was 21 when I did it's called the Katimovic program, which would be kind of similar to the Peace Corps in the United States. And I kind of went outside of my hometown for the first time, besides maybe going to, I went to trade school first, and I went outside of my immediate community and the bubble, the people that I knew, and I went to a completely new town in Eastern Canada, in Hamilton, close to Toronto, and I did volunteering projects for 6 months, and it kind of reoriented my worldview and kind of helped me the shape the type of person, maybe not necessarily that I was, but the person that I wanted to become. And I think you need, like, in order to achieve or move on or become something in your life, you have to recognize it first. Like it's just like with like athletes, like it's a visualization thing where you almost have to write it down like a bunch of times, or and just kind of repeat it over and over, because it's still in your conscious mind, and it still has to percolate down into your subconscious mind. If your subconscious mind doesn't believe something,
Mhm.
um, it's very hard to project that into the outer world if your subconscious is fighting you. And I got that from Bob Proctor. I don't know how much you follow Bob Proctor, uh, but lots of people kind of like dismiss him as the guy that just talks about wealth and financial well-being, but he is actually more of a, I would say, he works more on human psychology more than anything, or it's a view of the human mind that not a lot of people are aware of. If they want to change something in their life, their subconscious mind needs to accept that new reality before it actually becomes reality, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes total sense to me that you would have to visualize yourself into becoming that new thing. And the moment that you have this belief, or someone shares they have this belief in you to be able to do it, and you accept it, because a lot of times people can say, I believe in you, you can do this thing, but it isn't until you actually believe that truth yourself and embrace it and move with it that actually can happen. And I'm thinking, as you're talking about the whole athletic journey, how athletes have to picture themselves doing that particular thing, whether it's dunking the basketball in, getting that touchdown, um, any of those types of physical sports where it's a sport, whether it's individual or team, where every person's important and you got to get through to the other side in order to score. Um, the same thing with the self image, really. Um, and I can think about my self image that I have. that stems back from my youth, and it played forward into my adult life. And people probably wouldn't know this because it's audio, but I only stand 4'11". So I'm not exactly very tall. And so I thought for many, many years that I had the genetic makeup that I would never be able to be thin around the middle. And so I'd always thought, oh, I'm just always going to be short and not slender, and that's just the way it's going to be. And I'm fine with it, and all of that. And so it's interesting that because of a health uh, issue, I had surgery done. And so the moment I was done with that, I thought, here's my opportunity to see whether or not that self image or that belief that I couldn't be slender and thin would be true or not. And I decided that to quickly heal and to get going, that I would embark on a physical fitness journey. So that meant dropping the calories and exercising and learning how to balance the two of those things in tandem in order to be able to move through the weight loss and build the muscle without hitting that plateau and not being able to go somewhere. And I will tell you, the first 3 weeks, those were tough. And there were probably a few times like, oh, is this really worth it? I don't want to change what I'm eating to get there. And, I have to exercise every day, which was the part that I enjoyed. Actually, I enjoyed that part of it. But long story short, I ended up completing that. And I was the only one that finished that whole entire transformation and did the photo shoot to actually showcase where I had went and where I had gone. And I honestly did not realize that through that work that I did, because I wanted to be mentally and physically fit, and I wanted to have more energy to do all the things that I love, that I became an inspiration to so many people. And I just didn't have that image of myself. Sure, I'd done all of these things to slim down, and I could, wear clothes where I could just order them, they come and they fit perfectly. I hadn't been able to do that all my life. And so I just did not. So even though the self-image had shifted, I didn't really grab on and believe it for quite some time. It took took people saying things like, "Oh, I'm so inspired by you. I want to do this. How do you do this?" And really, I just done it for myself, and I didn't really see myself as anything spectacular. I didn't see that at all. I just thought I was doing something for me, and I guess everyone else getting inspired by what I had done in the process. Well, then that was really awesome. And so, as a coach, when I can motivate and inspire people to do great things and to have belief in themselves, that's the greatest thing. And here I'd done this thing and I didn't even see it. It was right in front of me. I had no idea. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is because sometimes with our self image, we can have a negative one. But what if you have a positive one that everyone else sees, but you don't see it? That's almost in the same spot as being on the other side of doing something and not even realizing it. So I just wanted to share that different perspective that people may or may not have heard somebody going through a transformation speak to.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because, like, if someone was to meet me from high school, like if I was to go to my high school reunion, people wouldn't recognize me because the person I was in high school, like, mostly, I stuck to myself. I really didn't view the social aspect of high school. I didn't take it like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just so, in my opinion, stupid. But now, like let's say from the age of 21 to 31, and then in the last year especially, like, I would say I've had to hyper accelerate my self image because, like, I'm a tradesperson by profession, but I really enjoy connecting with people. and I really enjoy helping people. And the way that I help people, like right now, like service wise, is that I'm in renewable energy. That's what I do. That's my bread and butter. I live, breathe, eat, sleep, wake up, talk about renewable energy. Um, and it's been a process for me for the last 5 years to try to transition my life from just being on the tools, which you don't have a lot of face to face, or like as I do now, a lot of telephone conversations with people over the phone about getting solar panels or wanting to go off grid or that sort of thing. So I've had to hyper accelerate. Had to kind of hyper accelerate my self image to the point where, like, yes, now I can call myself a renewable energy professional, a renewable energy salesperson. I feel comfortable making cold calls to people on a daily basis. I don't feel nervous. I don't feel like I'm intruding on their day. I and that was just in January, and now we're what, May?
Hmm.
So that's not even been 5 months, right? Um, considering where I was last fall in terms of my mental health was not in a very good like headspace at all. To where I am now is like I don't even recognize the person from 7 months ago. It's like that person died, and I had to kind of rebirth myself in January. Like like I don't even like. And here's the other thing: I don't even call myself like I have lots of nicknames. Okay, like Bill, Billy, Bilbo, but my given name is actually William, and it's just this past year that I decided that I would start calling myself William, and I'd be like I would introduce myself as my name is William or Will, and now like when I'm on the phone, like that is who I am. I feel like I'm finally my own given name, and it's taken me to the age of 31 to kind of to own it, to own that, and it's given me a sense of it's given me a sense. I guess it's helped my self esteem in lots of ways because Bill didn't sell solar panels. That guy didn't sell solar panels. That guy was an electrician, and he had a lot of other things going on that weren't working for him. And I don't even identify with that person anymore. I've accepted a completely new identity. My new identity is William. I'm a renewable energy professional. I'm into the Tao Te Ching. I'm into personal development. I'm a podcaster now. Um, and all of those identities are kind of rolled into one new person. And I don't know, like if anyone out there is struggling with the self image, like I would recommend just write it down because that's what I had to do. Until it becomes real, like visceral, it's very hard to accept a new identity, because you're still fighting your subconscious mind for the person that you used to be. I think. I don't know how you feel about that, Linda.
I'm just taking it all in here. And so I like what you said about if you're struggling with your self image and your identity, then writing it down. And the way that you framed that was you had this other uh, few names that you went by. And so as you made this new identity for yourself and you stepped into being this powerful salesperson that's giving this renewable energy resource to people, then you decided that you would take on your full name of William. I think that that is a great testimony to being able to write it down and to recognize it and to move forward and leave the past behind. Now, it doesn't mean that you aren't aware of the past, but you're not staying there. In order to move forward, you decided that I'm going to take on my full name, and you did that. And I think that's wonderful. The same thing can happen when you make a career transition. You you may start in one career and people know you for doing one thing, and then you find out that you have a passion, excitement, and skill in a new field, and that sort of thing also happens because most people, when they look at my profile, they say, "What is it that you do?" And I have to laugh a little bit because my given uh, profession is accounting. And so I've been accounting manager for several years, but I don't identify with it at all. I see it as the foundation that has shaped me for the coaching that I do. And I started off doing um, coaching for performance, career coaching, and then I moved over and expanded into life coaching, and then now currently it's transformational coaching. And so I actually have to think about how do I want to show up when people introduce me, when I am giving a workshop, when I am a guest on a podcast. Who is Linda and how does she want to be? And so I decided that my self image, or that person that I want to be, is that person of service. So whether I'm wearing my accounting hat or I'm wearing my coaching hat, I'm both of those people. That nothing has changed in either one of them. One of them is a very technical field, whereas the other one works more with the social emotional side of things.
Well, and I would kind of have to say the same thing because I'm a very analytical person. I mean, I was an electrician, I trained as an electrician for 5 years, maybe closer to 6 or 7. And now that I'm moving into business and entrepreneurship, it's not like I haven't forgotten how to do some of those skills. Like, yeah, some of them are a little bit rusty. Like I'm not on screwdrivers every day or, wiring things every day. Um, but I think it's all kind of transferable because I can still train people, you know, how to do what I used to do as an electrician. And I've had several apprentices and I've trained them and I've trained them to a very high standard. So I'm well aware of what it takes to do something technical. And it's funny you should mention service because, like I said, I was first introduced to that idea of service from Katimovic. And Katimovic, as I was mentioning, was a volunteer program that I did in my early 20s. Um, and if you look at any of the colors for Katimovic are green and gold. And like my new company, Yukon Gold, like I took the colors from Katimovic because to me Katimovic represents service, and so does Yukon Gold, and the work that I'm doing now, even with the Doomer Bloomer podcast and my other podcast, the Daily Taoist, which is more of a passion project. Like I'm not really sure where that one is going, but I'm very much into the Tao Te Ching. I have been for the last 5 years, and I'm at the point where I would like to share the Tao Te Ching and the teachings of the Tao Te Ching with people uh, who don't. Well, like I'm a big reader, but not everybody likes to read. And Dr. Wayne Dyer, who wrote "Change Your Life, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life," basically 2017 for me was I call it my waking up, or my waking up period, where I finally came out of that doomer headspace and actually saw like a glimpse of sunshine for the first time in about 10 years, to be honest, from the age of 17 to 27, and that 10 years is a long time to stay in a dark place, right? And struggle financially, and struggle mentally and spiritually, and a lot, like just struggle, like daily struggle. um so from the age of 27 until 31, and I wouldn't say it was an easy transition. um but it was a transition nonetheless. Where I've gotten to the point where I'm not the best at it all the time, but I've got to the point where I can pretty much recognize when I'm going to go into a down cycle. Um, and what I found out last year is I actually have bipolar disorder, but I don't. The other thing is I don't say out loud. I don't like to say out loud that that's what I have, because if I start identifying with that, then that's what I become. I just say that I have struggles with my mental capacities, uh, and it requires me to, with in combination. Like I love how you brought up the health thing. The more that I have three main pillars of my life, and out of the 10, these are the three that I focus on the most: is health, wealth, and wisdom. Because I don't necessarily believe that you're going to be happy all the time. I don't think that's a realistic expectation. You know what I mean? I think it's
Oh,
more.
it's never something that you're gonna grab onto and be all the time. So I'm glad that you're sharing with everybody the truth in that, because it is true.
I think happiness is something that you can bring to the table when you are in a good headspace and you're working diligently or passionately towards the thing that you're trying to accomplish. It's something that you bring to something. It's not something that you accomplish. Happiness is not an accomplishment. It's a state of being. That's that you can attain when you're working towards something that you're passionate about. Um, and the so if I can get my three pillars in order: health, wealth, and wisdom, like for me, that's a good day or a good week or a good month or a good year. uh, so lately, right now, like I've been focusing on the wealth, but when I really think about it, wealth is tied to service. The more service that you provide, the wealthier you become. So if you're, it's kind of this relationship that you kind of balance. If you're providing more service, then you know proportionally your service should kind of equal your wealth, and vice versa. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I was actually like, when you're sharing the three pillars of health, wealth, and wisdom, I was writing like, okay, what are my three pillars then? And so I ended up with health, intellect, and energy.
Okay.
And then I was thinking, okay, is energy really a pillar? Because that's a something that you get when you are healthy. You have more energy, and when you are intellectually stimulated, you're going to have more energy. And so for me, it's that whole mind body combination being in alignment. And
Yeah.
so I thought, well, really, intellect, that's wisdom. And for me, wealth is that well being, as in being with gratitude, being in a place where just being is the wealth, is the way I look at it. And so that would be the one that's slightly different for me, which is probably why I threw energy in there, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the, I want to radiate good energy, and the having moments of gratitude is great, but knowing that there's going to be times where I have lower energy and it's going to press on me. And so having that health and intellect to balance the middle one of energy makes sense to me. And so that's what I was thinking, that if I had to pick my three, those were ones that I would say I live by.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like I don't necessarily like tie wealth to necessarily financial wealth. I tie it to your wealth in the sense of abundance. So
Mhm.
that could mean it's more about your thinking pattern, because a thought like there's not enough or there's never going to be enough or something like that, that's energy saying to the universe that there's a scarcity in the world, which is not true. It's a cognitive bias, right?
Hmm.
The world actually works on abundance, and it's tied right into the Tao Te Ching. Like there are universal laws out there that if you're starting, like you said, if you're starting with gratitude, if you're already grateful for the things that you already have,
Hmm.
um, the Tao Te Ching says that if it's not in your life, then you don't need it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it makes total sense. Yes.
Because a lot of people get tied up in the idea that I need to attain these material things to be happy or get to the next level of success or keep up with the Joneses, or you know what I mean? Like when I get the
Oh, I
house,
know. Yes.
when I get the
Hmm.
car, or this next whatever, insert random material item here.
Hmm.
But if you can just
And
keep
when
it in
we
the back of your, go ahead.
I was gonna say
If you,
when we do that, we miss out in so much of the greatness of life when we're always thinking about the next thing. If I had this, what if you don't live long enough to get that thing? So you're gonna spend your life wishing you had all of these things and being, oh, poor me. It's better to say I have this, it's enough, and anything else that comes by good, that's a bonus. That's the way I like to look at it.
yeah, and like I'm at the point in my life where like I'm not wanting for material things. Like the next stage in my life, Linda, is I'm buying a little travel trailer. Uh, like I'm not even going to live in a house, because to me living in a house is just an excess that I like. It's a lot to take care of. It's a lot to maintain, look after. I don't have children. Not planning to have children in the immediate future. But for what I do in renewable energy, I need to kind of be mobile and
Hmm.
go from the next project to do consultation. So for me, having a little travel trailer, my truck, some basic amenities, uh, that's perfect for me.
Well, not only is it perfect, but then you embody the whole concept of renewable resources and living more minimally with what you have. Because how can you go out and tell people they should have renewable energy sources, and then let's say you went out and bought all these material things that are counterproductive to that? That'd be really hard to be in that step into that self image to sell people things that you don't even stand behind. So I think that it's great that you have that mindset, and that you see that you don't need all of these materialistic, big, huge things, that you can get by and be just as happy with having something smaller, and you're not competing with every other man in the world to have the most and the best and whatever things in life. That's not what's important to you. What's important to you is to live in that self image, which is to um, have that abundance mindset, to be happy with what you have. And you do all those things, you have that wealth that you were describing, which is a great place to be in my mind, in what you've told me. And so I really like that you've shared that, because I think that more of us could step into that. I think there's a lot of people thinking that they are going without and that they don't get to go as far in life and all these other things. It's like, no, that's not it. You just have to have a different mindset about what is important to you in life. And so I guess if you're one of those people where materialistic goods are your most important thing, well, your relationships probably aren't so great, because you're going to spend all your time and energy into getting those things that you're probably not even having good relationships with people, which I think is the most important thing on the planet, is the relationships that you have. And I could care less about things. I want to have the experience.
Well, yeah. I mean, it comes. I guess it comes. I guess it comes down to what sort of things that you value.
Hmm.
And here's the other thing. Like the only reason that I personally want to obtain a high level of success and become wealthy is so I can actually help a greater number of people than I can now. So it's tied back to the reason why I do things in the first place. You know what I mean? Like there, it's kind of a catch 22. Like you want the thing to help more people, but to help more people, you need more things. You know what I mean? Or you have to build
You
a
need
team.
resources. You need more resources to be able to have impact. Is the way that I look at that.
Yeah,
And so,
resources.
hmm
Yes,
hmm
exactly.
hmm
You know, like the next step for me like would be to build a team of people doing what I do, or train people to do what I do on an individual level. um I like that. That would be like, I guess that's kind of what Yukon Gold eventually is going to become, in a sense.
hmm
It's going to be a partnership of people doing interesting things in renewable energy and working together towards a common goal, I guess I would say.
I love that you have said that because one of my values, and you're speaking it right now, is social reciprocity. So
Mm.
you just said, I'm going to take the skills that I have, form a team, and teach all of those individuals the things that you know so you can work towards a common goal. And so I think that that is something that I'd like to see the world doing more of, is extending the social reciprocity mindset. Because think about all the things that could happen in the world. What you're doing is what I described is you need resources in order to have impact. When you do that, you're building your set of resources so you can have that impact. I think people forget sometimes that other humans or other individuals who have skill sets that can be leveraged or exchanged with another set of people, that is one of your biggest resources that you could ever have.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've had to I've had to let go of it because it's such a Western idea, is, and it's the reason why I adopted the Tao Te Ching as my personal philosophy, is that you have to put the intention out there. This is what I'm going to do, and
Hmm.
this is why I'm doing it. But you actually have to let go of the how that it
Yes.
happens. You have to let go of that, and just be humble, and put the energy out there and say, this is what I'm doing, and have faith, or whatever you call it, spirit, whatever you call it. Just have faith that the resources, or the people, or the money, or the time, or whatever thing will manifest itself. And I'm not saying it's woo woo or
Oh
that
no, I
sort of
don't. I
thing,
agree with you completely.
but
You're
you have
speaking my
to
language here.
you have to let go, that, I guess, let go of the ego saying, this is the reason, this I'm the reason why this is happening. You have to let go of the ego and just be like, I'm receiving this when it happens, in the time that it happens, and just be humble in the fact that it's going to happen. So you ask your universe or spirit or whatever for the thing, or the project, and let go of the how. And I guess it would be called, in Buddhism, it'd be called non-attachment. um,
Non-attachment. Yes. Uh-huh.
like non-attachment to the outcome. As soon as you
Yes.
start letting go, like becoming non-attached, and this could apply to business, relationships, personal or romantic, letting go of the attachment to the
Hmm.
thing or the person. As soon as you do that, it's just like, whoa! It randomly, it just happened. I didn't have to do anything. What?
I
And then you're
had that
just,
experience you're describing, and
yeah.
that's how I described it, was the non-attachment. I was so attached to the person and the outcome that things weren't going the way they needed to go. And I just decided one day, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. I'm doing this. they can do that, and let's see what happens. And that's exactly it. Things went into this really wonderful place of being, and all of these things started manifesting in the greatest, most possible greatness way, the way you could ever have. And it was just because of that. Then, because we hold too tightly onto things, and so when you do
Yeah,
that,
we
then we
we
we,
we
we
tend
shrink
we
our growth, our ability to
yes.
grow. We shrink it. That's what happened. The growth couldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I don't feel like I'm an expert. Like somebody like to me like Wayne Dyer was my spiritual teacher, my spiritual guide, and I followed him. Like I didn't even know he'd passed away in 2015. Like I didn't even
Mm.
know. I was just like, wow, I'd love to shake. Like I would love to meet him in person. And it's like, oh, I didn't know he passed away at the age of 75 in 2015. Like this, like literally that, like if you're like any book, like this is the book I recommend. Like I don't even know how many times I've gifted this book, probably 5 to 7 already. But change your thoughts, change your life. Um, if you can like not just read it, but if you can internalize the principles, not even the principles, if you can internalize the lessons of 2,500, like 2,500 years ago, that like Lao Tzu, or even if he was a real person, I don't even know. Like if you can, and it's really weird. Like, and I read the Tao Te Ching every day. Like I have so many books, but that's the book that like it's almost always within reach of me. And like my favorite verse is verse 17, and it's really where I base my leadership style. And I love Wayne Dyer's translation the best, because he basically took the 10 different translations and made the best translation out of all those 10 different. But like I don't know, I'm just gonna read it because it is my favorite verse. So verse 17: with the greatest leader above them, people barely know one exists. Next comes one whom they love and praise. Next comes one whom they fear. Next comes one whom they despise and defy. When a leader trusts no one, no one trusts him. The great leader speaks little. He never speaks carelessly. He works without self-interest and leaves no trace. When all is finished, the people say, we did it ourselves. And that is just servant leadership at its finest, at its potential. Because I have been in corporate environments the last basically 10 years of my life, and I've hated it, because it's always a top down, do this, don't do that. Feedback is discouraged, and you feel like you can't ever, like you're never, like you're fighting the tide. You're never going to change the culture. And especially, I feel it as a millennial, because I feel like I've had a lot. I feel like I have a lot of good ideas that just get pushed to the side, and I'm really glad that I work for myself now, or work for myself. I mean, that's a relative term, but I'm glad that I'm on a path that is that I'm finally in alignment with, because for the better part of the last 10 years, I have not felt in alignment with who I am, my purpose, and what I'm doing. But now I wake up at 4:20 or 4:45 in the morning, and I'm just like, oh, let's just get to work. I know what I have to do for the day, and I feel, whether that's because I might get back into blogging again, whether that's going to be a blog post, a new podcast, whether it's on renewable energy, the Tao Te Ching, or the Doomer Bloomers. Um, I feel like I'm finally making an impact, and I finally feel like I'm helping people. because the core of my being is really, it's not about me. I don't think it's ever been about me. You know, like if I was to, like, if someone was to ask me, like, most influential person in my life would be my mother, because if I didn't have my mother, I don't think I would have turned out the way that I was supposed to. I think I would have lacked a lot of empathy for people, and I think I would have just been a very jaded and angry person, because that's what I used to be as a teenager. I used to be jaded and angry, and I just used anger as either a verbal or a physical weapon against people. And I it also was reflected back into me. So um, they say that anger is just a indicator that you need to change something, or frustration is an indicator that you need to change something. Something's not working. Um, and that you need to reflect, like, rather than turning that energy inward, you need to reflect it back out into a positive, like turn that frown upside down. Because I get told a lot that I don't smile enough. um so but I only really smile when I'm truly doing something that I truly enjoy. So it's it's kind of a catch 22. Like, it's not that I don't smile, it's just that most of the most of the time I don't. I guess most of my life I wasn't doing things that I enjoyed doing, if that makes any sense.
It does. And so basically, what I'm hearing is you reserve the smile for when you are actually feeling it and you're not just turning it on for the rest of the world. So if we see you smiling, we know that you're enjoying what you're doing and we could go with that feeling there.
Yeah, and like, when you hear me laugh, you can genuinely know that I'm actually happy and actually laughing about something. Like, I've been told that I have a laugh that will just, it's contagious. Like, I used to do, like, in Katinovic, laughter yoga. I've been to comedy shows where I was the only person laughing, and it would just crack everyone up. Um, and yeah, I guess for the longest period of time, I used to come across as a uh, very stern individual, because I really didn't know how to present myself properly. And I don't believe in the whole Dale Carnegie "fake it till you make it" or "pretend till you make it" sort of philosophy. I believe in being genuine and not fake. Like, if you're genuinely not feeling it, then that's how you feel. And and obviously we have good days and bad days. Hopefully more good days than bad days. But since I've, now leveled out my medication, and I've gotten back into my exercise routine, and genuinely, I listen to, like, a daily affirmations, and things like that, and I'm not telling myself on a daily basis anymore that, oh, that's not going to work, or I feel sick, or um, because everything is energy. If you start vibrating at that energy, eventually that's the frequency that you're going to stick at after a while. And I have found myself since April finally coming back into my own energy again, which, it's taken a long time for me to kind of get my medication dialed in the way that I wanted it to. It's been a year, actually, and um, my output since April is probably tripled or quadrupled the output that I did in the 6 months prior. I put more podcasts. I put more, just everything. Like, it's kind of unreal, the amount of output I've had since April. Um, I love how you have a cat on your lap.
Yes, she is always the Zoom or podcast, whatever it is. she's going to show up and be a part of it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love cats. They're my favorite.
so I really love where you're going with the whole I'm able to be more productive because I found that energy where I want to be. And you're right. When you are in that place where you just have that energy where your mind and your body feels balanced and you can be in tune with that, then it makes it so much easier just to show up who you are. And, you shouldn't have to show up just for the sake of you're expected to be somewhere. Um, Recently, there was a situation where I just was not feeling the thing that was going on. And so it is unlike me to just tap out. So I was in a meeting and I just said, this isn't working for me. And it was a meeting where it was one directional. So it wasn't like I was doing something at that particular moment. So I just decided that I didn't need to fake it until I make it type of a thing for this meeting and decided to leave. And that was the best thing that I could have done because it made me go back into the energy I needed to be in. So the next time, something would come up, I would be all ready to go and do that. I've never done that before. I've never just left something. And so I think the reason I was able to do that because I felt that it was more important for me to be where I needed to be, not where I was expected to be. And so I've chosen that as my new thing. If I have the energy and the excitement, enthusiasm, or whatever to be somewhere, I'll be there. But if I don't feel that positive energy or that place to be there, then I don't need to be there, and that's okay. And so,
Well, and I like the last time we spoke or last time you coached me. The major takeaway I had from that was protected time, and I've actually scheduled it into my day now. Like the first 2 hours of my day, like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. or like 5 to 7 a.m. Like that is my time, and I can use it however I kind of want it. And then the same thing on the other end of the day, 6 to 8 p.m. at night. That's kind of my time again to either read, rejuvenate, do my workout, whatever thing that I need to do for me. Then and then it's really helped me like during the day be more focused because I've already taken the care of the things that Bill needs to do in the morning because I'm not really a morning person. I need 2 hours to wake up before I even feel like getting on a phone call with people because it just won't be good for anybody. Like I've woken up and had to take phone calls right away, and it's just not a good conversation.
I like the fact that you took that out of our conversation because that's something that I've been doing for a while that I picked up on because we all talk about how we should take time for ourselves and balance things out and show up when we want to and don't show up when we don't want to. And that's where I came up with that concept. And I use it in conversations both with the life coaching and then also in the workplace. um, I share that the whole idea that you should have protected time to do certain tasks where you need to, be able to focus and have that concentration, or you need that time to ramp up, or you just need that time to be able to learn that new thing. There's no way that you can learn something new while you're trying to do something on the side. And so I just tell people it's okay to have that time. And the reason why I call it protected, because you have to tell people a lot of times when they want to come in during that time that you have planned, you have to tell them, sorry, I've got this thing scheduled. And so, unless your hair is on fire, we're not going to be moving this. And so, you have to be really convicted in that belief how important it is. And once you set up that boundary with people, whether it's personal or other, then people respect it. And then you get that place that you just described where you could have that 2 hours in the morning to get to that mental energy that you need to be very skilled and relaxed and confident in doing those sales calls. And then again at night to be able to wind down from all of the different conversations you've had to be able to do that too. And so Thank you so much for sharing that because I think a lot of people could get value in it, which is why I share in a lot of different capacities whenever people were saying that they're underwater, they're swamped, they're not grounded, all of these things. It's because people don't take the time to put that into place and to honor it by saying, no, this is my time and this is why I do it. And please respect that. Hmm.
Well, and I'm just going to give you a contrast. Like when I used to work for GE, it was like 80-hour weeks all the time. So there was no downtime,
Hmm.
and it was a big contributing factor to my mental deterioration last year. And I did have a day, like a day per week. I call it Better Bill Day. I still call it that. My Sundays are called Better Bill Day, and it's like my weekly tune up or weekly tune in, uh, where like I take protected time to another level. Where Sunday is basically for whatever I want to do. If that's a podcast, I'll do a podcast. If that's yeah, it's just kind of whatever I feel like doing on Sunday that I feel like I need to do to catch up. Then that's what I take Sundays to do now. And since I've incorporated that, like my weekly productivity and my monthly productivity has just it's just completely ballooned. Because I
Hmm.
can get more done out of 4 hours than most people can probably get done out of eight, just because I'm just that focused with my time. Like uh,
Yes, when you get into that mental space, that's exactly what happens. And I saw the value of that happening in my own practice, which is why I'm so much of an advocate for it. And so I don't know that it's a new concept, but the way that I describe it isn't necessarily how the rest of the world describes it. So I put my own tune on it.
yeah, well, I think it was very very helpful for me, and now I've recommended it to all my doomer bloomers out there. I highly recommend having your daily protected time and your weekly protected time. Um, I don't know, Linda. Is there anything else you would like to add to the podcast?
I think what I'd like to say is that I'm so glad that you invited me into your space so that we could talk about self image. We could talk about the things that have shaped us, the things that we can do um, as individuals and leaders to make life better. And then closing it out with the whole having protected time and space to be more really productive in our lives. And the way I wrap this all up is we've just taken everyone on a journey to talk about the health, wealth, and wisdom pillars that we started with in the beginning of the podcast.
Well, and not every and here's the thing, like as a doomer bloomer, like your pillars aren't going to be my pillars, and they're not going to be Linda's pillars. They're going to be pillars of your own choosing. I happen to focus on those three. I actually have a total of 10, but the three that I keep very much in my forefront all the time is healthy, wealthy, and wise, because I'm a big proponent of the 80-20 rule, meaning that 20% of your efforts are getting 80% of your results. So if you're doing your daily workout, if it's 7 minutes or 15 minutes, at least you're doing something, which is better than nothing. If you're working on your mindset for wealth, or your at least you're working towards on a daily basis your wealth or abundance mindset. Just because you don't have it right now, or doesn't mean that that's not going to be it for you, but you have to attract it before it becomes a reality. um, and the same with wisdom. So I dedicate a certain part of my, like, usually the morning or the evening. Like the evening is usually my reading time. but I also do read, like sometimes I do reading in the morning, and I do a lot of like Audible, right? And I'll re-listen to a lot of Audible content because I have a series of 52 books that I just cycle through my Audible account. And you know, if you're part of my Doomer Bloomer community, you have access to this because I put it into my Discord groups. So anyone out there who hasn't joined my Discord group, it's completely free to join. I put resources out there that I don't share on the regular podcast, just because it's a community of people or a community of Doomer Bloomers working collectively, or the Doomer Bloomer Collective, to better their lives, their health, wealth, and their wisdom. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I think Linda's a member. I think.
I believe that I am, but I need to go get some of those resources checked out because I didn't realize you had 52 there, for one for every day of the week if you chose to do it that often, which would be absolutely fantastic to be able to go in and find something that would build on our life, that would be helpful. And I have to say that I really love verse 17 that you shared tonight. And so if I was going to go grab a book now, that would be the one that I would go grab.
It's number one on the list. Change Your Thoughts,
Number
Change Your
one.
Life. Change Your
Okay.
Thoughts, Change Your Life by Wayne Dyer. It's in the reading list tab of the Discord group.
Awesome. I'm going to go get that and check it out. And I encourage everyone else to do the same.
All right. Well, this has been a pleasure, Linda. Thank you for, I guess we're mutually coming on each other's podcasts. The Two Perspectives and the Doomer Bloomers are teaming up.
Yes.
Probably the first of many. If you have a
Oh, yeah.
podcast, if you have a podcast out there and you would like to join the network, because podcasting is a community, Podmatch is a great place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. I haven't checked it out yet because it said as soon as you go in, you can check it out. So I was have it in my messages so I could go check that out during my protected time.
Right. During your protected time. And
Yes.
I will put a link to Podmatch in the description. So anyone out there who are, either on the fence about building a podcast or already have a podcast already or need resources to build a podcast, all of that will be in my description. All right. Have yourself a great and prosperous day wherever you are in the world. And remember that just because you're a doomer now doesn't mean that you can't become a bloomer in the future. It's all about mindset and getting on the path and getting the resources to help you. And that's what this podcast is actually all about. Thank you and good night. All right. If you enjoyed this podcast with Linda, please consider becoming a full subscribing member to the Doomer Bloomer podcast and joining the Doomer Bloomer Collective. We have a Patreon page, 3 tiers, where I, give a lot of resources and additional help and coaching to people who want to progress in their life. If you really want to help the podcast move forward, please consider going to my GoFundMe page. You can check all of those things out at www.thedoomerbloomerpodcast.com/support and become a member today. Also, retweet this as hashtag new you, new paradigm, hashtag 2021.